Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Ali.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. It's a real big honour.
That's great.
Yeah, so Ali, what's your kind of 1 minute introduction about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ali Stokes. I'm a registered nurse, a corporate dropout, and now the proud co-founder of a health tech startup called Beyond the Clinic.
Oh, that's amazing. So we really want to know how Ali got to where she is today. So right from the beginning, Ali, what kind of kid were you like growing up?
I was a pretty easy life being a kid. So I grew up in North Queensland, so there was a lot of fishing, motorbike riding, and very much outdoors. And so any sort of sport was our game or our jam. And yeah, I think pretty standard at school, pretty popular with amongst the kids.
So is it because you was like sporty?
Yeah, I think so. We always, my dad liked his boys' toys, so we always had boats and motorbikes. So we were always having people over to have fun. We were all about having fun when we were younger. So
that's awesome. And you have siblings?
I have an older brother, so he was quite punishing on me at times, as I was often the result of his bow and arrow making or his flying fox creations. So I was the younger sister that he would test out all of his development. So, but yeah, he's 4 years older than me.
Yeah, is it fair to say you were a bit of like a tomboy growing up?
Definitely.
That's amazing.
So you can't grow up in North Queensland as a princess. That's so, yeah.
Fair enough. And then what about in terms of school? Were you enjoying academics? Did you have your favourite subjects?
I won't say that I was the most academically focused child. I was more interested in the parties than the academics. But yeah, I certainly enjoyed having lots of friends and playing lots of sports. But academic, my motto for school was P's equal degrees, just pass. And who else? Why worry about chasing the anything else as long as you can pass?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And your parents are pretty chill about that? Just have fun, kid?
Yeah, I don't know that they had much choice in it. So, yeah, I think my brother was quite the opposite. He was very academic and, a very high achiever. And then came me. And so I think that they had a little bit of a rude shock. But we're definitely chalk and cheese, him and I. So, yeah.
That's awesome. At least if you have one kid that, is strongly academic, you feel good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then so when you were younger and you're like thinking about the future, what kind of like career did you sort of envision for yourself? / what did your parents want you to do?
Yeah, what would my parents want me to do? So my mum and dad have always been small business owners and really self-made. Nothing's come easy for them. They've had to work really hard. So the one thing that they really wanted for my brother and I, was to have a university education. And so that was as simple as it was. There was no negotiating. It was you need to go and have a degree. So I looked at what was the quickest degree I could get. That was nursing. So I thought, okay, nursing sounds okay. I can at least travel the world. I probably will be able to have lots of fun parties at uni, and I'll, always have a job because people are always going to get sick, and I can always just. Yeah. So that was kind of I don't think I'm this born natural nurse of caring and doting kind of person.
Helping people.
Definitely not. More sort of pragmatic about it's a stable job. So then that's when I went down to Brisbane, and I was desperate to get out of a small town, so that I left Brisbane. I left my town in North Queensland and came to Brisbane to do my studies.
Yeah, and how did your parents feel about the decision? Did they go like, Ali, we do businesses. Why don't you just do a business degree, nice and short, huh?
So I wish they had have said that.
Oh, okay.
But they were tired of business. They've been doing business their whole life, and they were exhausted. And so I think they were like, go get a really good job where someone else can pay you, because they had so many staff and they were so tired of paying other people. So they were actually quite the opposite, which. Now at the age of 40, I kind of say, man, why did you not tell me to go and do business? I was always supposed to do business.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was, your family shape you, right? So, and it's interesting that you come back to what your learned behaviours were.
Yeah, yeah. And tell me more about the family businesses. What kind did they own?
Yeah, so mum and dad, they were, they sort of, my mum lost her mum when she was young, so she sort of became, she's the eldest of four, and so she certainly became that matriarchal figure, and similar to my dad, they had some hardship. My dad was the eldest, so from the age of 16, they were out in the workforce. I think that they're both kind of alpha individuals, so they probably realised I didn't want to work for other people, and very quickly established their own businesses. So my dad is a plumber, he had his own plumbing business. My mum had a dress shop, they had childcare centres and swim schools and multiple businesses, small businesses, but always looking, not because they like children or or they're they're fashionistas or anything. It's mostly just seeing opportunity to make money and self-made, really. So they did businesses most of their career, and obviously had their own superannuation funds and things like that. So they couldn't. No one paid their salary, is essentially what I want to say. So they were always sort of super responsible, and it was a big burden for them, actually. So they were really just like, go find a job, go get a really good, high-paying job. It's going to be the best for you.
So they were probably working most of your childhood.
Definitely, huge hours. Dinner table conversation was always around business and who's what staff members coming and going or what deals happening. So it was very it's all consuming. Business, having small business is all consuming.
Now you realise.
Now I realise maybe Mum was right. No. So,
Wow. Did you ever get sick of it? Did you why are they bringing business back home? What was it like, being the daughter of parents who had a lot of small businesses? Was it cool?
No, I remember actually giving them quite a hard time and sort of, being quite cross with them for not, giving, when you're a 10-year-old child, you're very egocentric. So I remember, giving them quite a hard time. Now I have a 7-year-old and feel quite frustrated that he won't just let me do my business. That's all I really want to do. So
Was it convenient? They had a childcare business. They drop you off to childcare.
I was too old. No, I was old. I was old by then. I was already
dressmaking. Surely there should have been some perks.
Yeah, I was too young in the dress when she had the dress business. I was too young, so I was only 6 or something, and then I was too old for the childcare business. So I was just mostly
swimming. Did you say?
I did become a swim coach through the business, so that was a perk. Yeah, I suppose that was a perk. Yeah.
Some plumbing, good house.
Plumbing. Apart from making bongs with his with his pipes, no, I didn't do anything else. Plumbing.
Love it. Yeah, and then so when you told your parents, hey, nursing, were they like, oh yes, go Ali, stable job?
No, my mum was kind of she knew I wasn't very interested in academia, so I think she was looking for the quickest. She was probably pushed me into that pathway. Look, I always thought, I've always been kind of good in difficult situations, sort of.
You're the calm
sort of a calm one in the difficult situations. So I think it was a good fit, initially. So until I started studying nursing, I thought, whoa, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and what did your dad think about you becoming a nurse?
No, they're deeply proud of me. Obviously, as any parent, I think, unless you really stuff up, they're deeply proud of what you do and who you are.
That's so sweet.
And I'm extremely fortunate to come from such a supportive and loving family who just wants the best and sees the best in me. My launch pad has been superb. So I'm
awesome.
Forever grateful for my family and for the shoulders that I was able to stand on. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Shout out to Mum and Dad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then so you got the shock of your life when you started nursing. You're like, yeah, I could do that. I'm calm. Yeah, and then what was it actually like studying nursing?
No, I'm not sure if it would be a shock. It would be more like, what the hell am I doing this for? But I quickly learned to play the game of, what subjects did I have to go to, like anatomy and physiology, probably I should go to those ones. And then what I could just avoid. And then I suppose I didn't really, I did a bit of aged care nursing and, throughout your training you do all your psych units and your spinal wards. And I really thought, I don't know if I can see myself doing this until I found the operating theatres. And I had a placement in the operating theatres and I really enjoyed that. So this was, and yeah, I suppose it's kind of the you're in a very intimate team, you're in a very artificial environment in the operating theatres where it's like 10 people to one patient, and the stakes are high. So I really enjoyed the adrenaline of acute nursing. So, you know, ED, ICU and operating theatres where it's kind of like fun and action-packed as opposed to more ward nursing or community nursing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and what was it like working in the operating theatre?
Yeah, I think
was it scary for you? Was it like gross?
Yeah, so it's nothing. So after uni, I sort of got my first job in the operating theatres, and I've actually only ever done nursing in the operating theatres because I pretty quickly realised in uni that I didn't want to do ward nursing, and you know, don't ever ask me to do a pill round. I wouldn't know how to do it. So I'm not a very good nurse. I'm more yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was something that, like, even though I'd done this degree in nursing, the operating theatres does prepare you for anything. It's very different language. It's a very different environment. What I did enjoy about it was the teamwork. You know, so. Yeah. Like a surgeon can't operate without an anaesthetist, and without a nurse, and you know and we rely heavily on the wardsmen who help us position the patient. So it was a very collaborative environment, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, also means standing for hours and being able to hold your pee.
Fine, that was okay. that I can manage. That was interesting, and I liked the blood and guts, so I quite enjoyed it. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what your longest surgery that you sat in for, or some of the most memorable? I know it would take you a bit back.
Yeah, always trauma is always quite, you know.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so when I was in like nursing in North Queensland, they obviously, you know, you service a big district, so there's often big car crashes or mining accidents, and because there's little resources, you have to really be multi-skilled. So we definitely did some really interesting procedures that you probably wouldn't get in like metropolitan areas because you'd have teams for that, you know, specialised teams. So it was really, I really enjoyed that. That was kind of adrenaline pumping.
That's awesome. And then you worked as a clinical nurse at Queensland Health for like 5 years. So did the excitement kind of quickly fade?
So I suppose as you grow in your career as nursing, you know, especially in small towns, you get pushed up the career ladder really quickly because it's just purely...
Go, Ali!
It's more just supply and demand. It's just like, who wants to say yes? Certainly my skills rapidly advanced quickly because you're kind of, before you know it, you're managing a floor, or you're managing the team, and then you're managing a sort of subspecialty. So it was a really, again, I felt very grateful to have that opportunity to be pushed so hard and fast in my career.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. But I probably found my niche in kind of surgery, in kind of like the scrub scout role, and in particular probably in orthopaedics because I really enjoyed the carpentry of it. It kind of made all sense to me. That was probably my main area of interest.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this podcast, it's a lot of my friends who are watching. A lot of them are in uni, you know, really lost in life and trying to find passion. So like at this point in time, during like your 5 years as a clinical nurse, were you like, yes, I found it?
I did. I was enjoying it a lot. I felt a lot of fulfillment. I felt often, you know, we'd have someone that's coming from a car accident, and I felt like I actually really contributed to saving someone's life tonight. You know, because you work long hours, and you know, we would leave at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and we had literally saved someone's life. You know, we'd pumped litres of blood into them, or we had intervened some way that had actually saved their life. So I did have that really great sense of purpose. And I did enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, and also tell me about your incomplete masters.
So working in a regional town as a nurse, as a theatre nurse, you're multi-skilled, right? So you can admit a patient, you can help with the anaesthetic, you can go and scrub your hands with that same operation, and then you recover that patient. And in a metropolitan area, that is kind of like all subspecialties of their own. And so my master's I did in was how effective is this role of the multi-skilled perioperative nurse? Like, I mean, here we are, jack of all trades, master of none. When something comes in the door that's a little bit like left of field, we don't really have the skills to be able to manage that. So I did run down this kind of venture of doing my master's in nursing research, and it was mostly just sort of understand, should we do this, or should I lobby to try and get more funding so that we can get more nurses in regional towns?
Yeah.
I was like 25 and enthusiastic, So, and I went down, I studied, I did my whole thesis, so I was really close to publication. And that's when I met my husband and I moved to South Africa, and I just lost my passion for it. I thought, I cannot write this same thing one more time, because that's what a thesis is, right? You write the same thing over and over and over again, and about 3 people in the world read it. And so I felt really despondent, and plus my life was changing completely. So, I'd fallen in love, moved to South Africa to be with my husband, and I just had lost interest in that area of what I was doing. So my life had just sort of moved on. And so unfortunately, I feel a little bit bummed that I did not complete it, but it certainly has put me in good stead in business, and certainly now as I'm, we're doing some academic research with our company, so it's really helping me a lot, so to understand the principles of research. So
yeah. And if you could go back in time, would you have pushed that alley to finish it?
Probably. Mostly, I mean, I don't think it would have really advanced me in my career or anything anymore, but mostly just so that
it's completed.
I've got it done. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And tell me, what was the move like to South Africa? Was it easy to just drop everything in Australia and then just follow your heart?
No, I won't say nothing about South Africa is easy. Interesting, yes, but nothing is easy in South Africa. It is a very hard country to live in. And we had obviously our little girl at the time as well, so we had our daughter, and it was good. It was exciting. I was very interested in having a new adventure. So I tried really hard to get my nursing registration. So I was quite keen just to land. My husband's a doctor, so...
Wow, that's convenient.
Yeah,
the doctor and nurse duo.
I know.
The
it's like
stereotypes.
Grey's Anatomy all over.
Yeah.
But I wish it was that sexy. It wasn't. I really struggled to get... It's very political, South Africa, so I really struggled to get my nursing registration. So then I started thinking about, okay, what other work could I do that's still in the operating theatres and still in and around patient care that is not directly nursing. And that's when I got picked up by Johnson & Johnson Medical, and they are basically a medical device company that sells implants. So my first gig with them was in the trauma, so selling trauma equipment, pins and plates, and one thing about South Africa, it has the most interesting pathology. So I saw sort of gunshot femurs and smashed up bodies, and became quite an integral part of the surgical team to help them supply the equipment to put these patients back together. So then it also opened my eyes up to the world of business, because now I'm selling a product into healthcare, and to understand how healthcare is absolutely a business, even though you don't want it to be, and you want it to be all sort of like it's free for everyone. It should be so wonderful, but it costs a lot of money. And so I got this really nice lens of looking at healthcare and patient care through a little bit more of a commercial lens and a health economics lens, I suppose.
Yeah, that's so awesome, and that's like a real turning point. Otherwise, you would have probably still followed the yellow brick path into nursing and senior nurse.
I think so. Yeah, I think so, because you have this point in your life when you're 20, whatever, you sort of. You go and you train and you become something. I'm a teacher, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm an accountant. And then you think, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. Yeah. But I think it's not quite the way. There's so many avenues you can transfer your skills across into different areas and disciplines. So, And I feel really passionate about that. It's don't get bored, stuck in the same rut.
Yeah. And at that time, were you bummed like, oh man, I can't be a nurse? Or were you like secretly like, ha ha ha, there's a new opportunity?
Actually I was probably a little bit bummed because I hadn't really, I was annoyed that I couldn't get registered. That was, but actually the benefit was that in South Africa you still scrub in and you still assist and you still do all the operations as well as like supply the equipment.
Oh really?
Yeah, and they kind of the rules are a little bit looser over there.
Yeah. That was awesome.
So we were still very much in the operating theatres every day, scrubbed in.
Really?
Yeah, and then I got to just leave at the end of the case, which was even better. So yeah.
Wow. And so was this when you were a sales consultant?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's right. So yeah, in medical device sales, you kind of you have your bag of tricks, you have your bag of tools that you go and sell, and then you go and sell to your clients who are often surgeons or in pharmaceuticals, it's pharmacies, and then you show them here's my product portfolio, and then you start talking about clinical cases. So having been a nurse, it was really good for me because it put me in good position because I really understood the clinical application. I wasn't just selling stuff. I was like, have you seen this in this circumstance, or this can be applied in this kind of clinical pathology? And so I really could connect my clinical dots and my sort of sales dots a bit instead of just being a salesperson who didn't have the clinical background.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And so sales was that easy for you to do, or was that a bit awkward?
I didn't realise, but I'm actually a born-bred salesperson. I don't think you realise that until you get pushed into that. And I think everybody sells. Everybody sells. Everybody's a salesperson in some aspect of life, whether it's you're selling yourself or selling your skill or selling your knowledge. And I actually really love sales. Once I got over the hurdle of like not thinking I'm a cheesy salesperson and just realising that everybody sells, I really enjoy it. Because you can actually help people when you understand their problems and you can find a solution to help them, and that's a form of sale.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you were also there for 5 years and you moved to product specialist. Hallelujah.
Oh yeah. Which one was that? That was really exciting. But we moved back to Australia, so 5 years in South Africa doing sort of trauma and arthroplasty, and then I moved back with J&J to launch their kind of biggest investment that I've ever done, which was a knee replacement. So that was a very exciting job for a few years. I did that, and that was really helped me understand how the products get developed. So we went over and spent some time in the US and understood how how they formed and how they developed and all the research and the development that goes into it to get to a point where they commercialise. So, and then I brought it back and I was sort of the representative or the specialist here in Queensland. And that was a fun job, loved that.
Yeah, and then you reached the pinnacle of your success. Hello! Yeah. Professional Education Manager for the ANZ region, Johnson & Johnson.
So that was a fun job as well. So that I really, along my journeys of sales and marketing and product launching, I really enjoyed the moments where surgeons found our product and had that light bulb moment of going, that's really good what you guys have done with this product, or that's really, and how they could really see that the product helping their patients. And so then I identified, okay, I really actually enjoy education, professional education, so I got that job. And I really enjoyed that, and that was a lot of travel, and at this point I had 2 kids now, and I was travelling a lot and I was really tired of being away from my family, and all I wanted to be was home in my sandy bed with my stinky husband, and I thought it was time for me to, and I was probably a little bit tired of working for corporate, so I'd had enough of kind of the politics and the bureaucracy, so I thought it's time for me to bow out, and having had this business entrepreneurial blood running through my veins, I thought it's time for me to have a crack of doing something on my own. So I knew that I wanted to do some sort of business on my own. I but I just needed some headspace. I needed some headspace to kind of think what it was, because I was so busy doing these high-level jobs that I needed to just have a break and just have a bit of thinking space as to what the next chapter of my life was going to look like.
Yeah, and then, so is that why you worked part-time?
Yeah, so I went back part-time nursing. So after 10 years of having a break of nursing, even though I was still very clinically involved, but 10 years of not being on the tools really per se as a nurse, went back and just worked part-time, and it was interesting for me. It was like riding a bike. It just came all flooding back to me. And that was really just to create some headspace to figure out what I wanted to do next. And that was when I kind of that's when I actually met my co-founder. And he, and we were watching, actually, after nursing, I went and did a little bit of work in their clinic, so in a clinic. And I was watching how we do patient care. And I noticed that, these patients come in for their kind of this life-changing event, whether they're having like a baby or a knee replacement or some kind of thing. And we like give them a photocopied instruction, and we say, okay, we'll see you on the operating table, or okay, go home and I'll see you in 6 weeks. And I thought, this is like, we don't do patient care very well. Like, we don't support our patients pre and post operation very well. And then I also looked at how my co-founder was managing his time as well. And, I'd see he'd have 40 patients that he'd see in one day, and he would repeat himself 32 times a day. And I was like, how do we just automate you? We just got to automate you.
Yeah.
And that's where we got to now building out our platform. So, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And how long? Because I think it's really nice that, like, people have like that kind of chicken and egg, like whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur or you have the idea and then you become an entrepreneur. But you're very much like, I am an entrepreneur. I just don't know what my idea is. So I really like how you first did like that part-time, that kind of thinking space. And so like, how long did it take for you to come up with your grand idea? Was it like a 6-month thing?
Yeah, no, actually I think that's really important, is to give yourself space and time, and thankfully my awesome husband is so generous and kind to he kind of funded and supported me a lot to just have that space. Like, I contributed, but I certainly... So he supported me a lot. He continues to support me. So that's to be acknowledged. And so, I think that I sort of spent about a year, and I was dabbling around. So I knew I wanted to do my own business. I didn't want to do products. So I didn't want to sell stuff, buy something for $1 and sell it for $2 and make a profit of $1.
Yeah.
I didn't want to sell my time anymore, because, if you get sick, that's it. So time I didn't want to sell. And I really liked the idea of selling software as a service, and I thought this is a great business. So, and then I was like, well, okay, so I know what the business model looks like. What is the problem that I'm going to solve with this business model? And that's, after a few cracks, I had a few cracks at a few different things.
Yeah, what were the different things?
Come on!
I
don't know if I'm too embarrassed. So, I had a few like little online courses and things like that I want to try, and how to promote and position clinicians and their skills, and so
but it was all very like health related, yes.
So but take one step back, I actually did have a crack at trying to do an e-commerce platform with some leather goods, and I realised that actually, what the hell am I thinking? I don't know anything about fashion. I know a lot about healthcare. Just stay in my lane, and there's a lot of problems in healthcare. And so how do I use SaaS in healthcare? And that's where when I started meeting Jason and we started really talking about these kinds of problems, we started the solution started forming.
That's amazing. And previous to that, did you have much experience in tech?
No. No, you ask all of my friends. Like, I was a late bloomer when it comes to anything tech. In fact, I still don't even really have an Instagram account. No, I'm definitely not tech savvy, but tech is a part of our lives everywhere, and we all are adopters of it. Whether you're 90 or 9. Yeah. So I just thought, how do we infuse this into healthcare? And how do we do it? Why has healthcare been the last to adopt technology in consuming healthcare? And thankfully, COVID was our silver lining for that.
Yeah, wow. And then so 1 month of kind of like brainstorming ideas, and then you got the idea for Beyond the Clinic with Jason, and then how long did it sort of take to kind of form and whatnot? Because I'm very interested in the early stages. Yeah, and especially like my audience, I think a lot of them, they have like little ideas, and then I think it's awesome that, you know, you take the idea and then you proceed and carry forward.
Yeah, and it's hard to be... Okay, so first of all, I think it was believing in myself. I had to get over that hurdle a lot. I had a hectic imposter syndrome. I was so scared of failing. Now I don't really care. I was probably likely I'm going to fail in lots more things. So I think that overcoming imposter was one thing. I think being realistic as well, like ideas are like farts. They just happen all the time, but you know, you actually have to flesh it out, and you know, doing a good mind map is a really good idea. Like a lean canvas, you know, is a really good tool to try and say, okay, who's going to pay for your idea? Who do you need, you know, the stakeholders? So we did that quite a few times. And then when we kind of, you know, we knew the problem really well. We had an idea about the solution. We're still navigating product market fit and you know, customers. So I mean, that's just an endless battle. But I think, mapping that out was key. I think, has that answered the question?
I don't even remember my question, to be honest.
Okay,
but yeah, more about Beyond the Clinic. So how did you, so in terms of the tech, if you didn't know too much, were you like learning the tech? Or did someone else kind of...
Yeah, so that's, your question was around how did you get started? So I think, the other thing that is to be really pragmatic about things. So yes, have your idea, you've mapped it out on a bit of a lean canvas, and then you actually have to put resource to it. So how are you actually going to resource this? Does this mean, at that point I was working 3 days a week as a nurse, and then I was like, okay, well I'm going to put 2 days a week to my business idea. And that's what I did. I just made out like it was a job. And then at some point I was like, okay, at some point I need to allocate some money to this, because everything needs money, whether it's legal fees. And so I said to my husband, how much could we put in as a couple? And it needed quite a lot of money. So we'd done some quotes, we'd understood how much it's going to cost us to build an app and all these things. And at that point, we sold a house that I had bought when I was a first-year nurse, and to fund this next venture, because we really believed in it, and we still really believe in it. And so we sold that, and we put some money in. So I think, you know, if you have got an idea, you've got to be realistic about this. How are you actually going to resource it? And from a time perspective as well as a capital perspective. And then once we had like, okay, great, we've now got a company. We've now got an idea, we've now got a solution, and we've got some partners, and we've got some money. We were good to get going. But that took about a year, that whole process.
Yeah, wow. And what were your parents thinking? Like, oh my gosh, that's my girl. She's becoming like us.
No, they weren't I don't know if I even told them really too much about what I was doing. Because I was
were you very low-key about
it? Very. Because I didn't... I was too scared of failing. And then also... it's still very conceptual at this point, you know, like, you know, until you actually put some money on the table and some skin in the game, it's all very conceptual. It's not really real. Once you sell that house and you put that money in that account, it's now real, and you start paying bills, it's real. And that's probably, so it's starting to evolve. I think Mum and Dad are still pretty happy with me.
That's cool. And tell the audience more about like what Beyond the Clinic is.
Yeah, sure. So I've told you a little bit about the problem. So we then went about building an app, and that connects the patients and the clinicians pre and post surgery, and provides them information and education and interaction with their clinicians remotely. So so we screen the patients, we understand a little bit of a profile about the patient, we then provide them on a sort of a program and we sort of do this in both chronic disease management and acute care management. And so just to make a real life scenario, so if someone was going to come in for an operation, let's say a knee replacement, we would provide them the information instruction that they need to prepare. We would send them out real-time reminders, and then we would be able to monitor them remotely while they're at home, checking in with them, seeing how they're functioning, and then raising the flag back to their referring doctor, say, hey, you know, Karen's in a bit of pain. She might need a review of her medications.
Yeah, and so does it have like a chat function where the patient like directly communicates with the doctor, or
Not directly to the doctor. So we have a health coach, which is an interim
Yeah.
kind of a escalator, like a triage point.
yeah, wow, and then you have to hire someone to be the health coach. Wow. Oh.
Yes, that's right. Yes, so we have registered nurses and physiotherapists on the team,
Wow.
and so that's right. We sort of triage the patients and push them back to the referring doctors.
Yeah, and is it like a 24/7 thing?
No, at this stage, because we're still sort of relatively early in the market, we're sort of staging our resources and our opportunities. No, we're not replacing. We're certainly not replacing 000.
No.
This is really this is really digitizing the materials that you get from your clinician to support you with basic questions. So chatbot functionality of like FAQs and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. And then did you like outsource like most of the app making to someone else, or were you trying to dabble in the tech?
No, not doing it myself. Actually, at one point I was so tired of feeling like I was getting screwed over by developers that I did thought, oh, I'm going to learn to code.
Yeah.
But actually, no, we had an agency working with us initially, and then when we kind of realised we had probably built the architecture wrong, and we'd built this too big, and it wasn't sort of agile enough and scalable enough, we decided that we needed to actually partner with a more sophisticated tech company. So we went to the US. We found another company that we partnered with, and that's where we're at today, where we have got a fantastic architecture that once we've found all the product market fit and all the sweet spot of where we are, we can actually scale this effectively with huge data streams coming in. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then so before going into this, you had like a perception of what it meant to be like an entrepreneur, and now like you're in the thick of it. Is there any kind of expectation versus reality gap? Because you thought, hey, this will give me flexibility and whatnot, but like this one is also like, I don't know, 2 or 3 full-time jobs, just to run this.
So I've never worked this hard for no money in all my life. So no one's paying you, right? Like no one's just, so we strategically decided to bootstrap this and only raise capital when we had revenue. So we are, in the throes of a cap raise, but we really wanted to make sure that we had a product and someone paying for it before we actually took anyone else's money. And so, I think, what was the question again? Sorry.
I don't remember, but how long does that process take when you're unable to get your first customer? And is it
a year, well and truly over a year. So I think, I think you kind of, as you move through entrepreneurial, you kind of have this ideation, this concept. I think that takes a year.
Yeah.
And so you're literally doing market research, and you're got this idea, you're not sure how, this is your lean canvas. This is what you're lean canvassing out, right? And you're building out these components of who's going to pay for it? What is the problem I'm actually even trying to solve here? Is this an assumption that I have, or is this actually a problem? Because if it's an assumption, and it's okay if it's an assumption, but you must just acknowledge that it's an assumption, and have you done enough market research? Who's your competitors? Is there something else? Is there already a solution out on the market? And so all these kinds of things you need to really spend, I think, about a year doing. And before you really let go of that one branch and hold on to the other. So I've only been in the company full-time for 1 year now. I wasn't ready to let go completely just because I didn't know if it was going to grow legs. And so then it was about the development. So we sort of, the first year was ideation and conceptualizing and understanding the roadmap and what it means to be an entrepreneur and develop tech. Second year was all about building the product. And so we really spent a long time building the product, understanding the stakeholders, finding the right partners, building the team. This year it's all about product and customers. So we're just getting, product and customers, getting to the market, getting as much user experience as we can so that we can refine the product.
Yeah. Have you been able to secure your first customer?
Yeah, so we've got 2 pilots.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
celebration.
Thank you. It is a celebration. So that's pretty exciting news. So that somebody else really also believes in what we're doing and is prepared to pay $1.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And how does like one like first get their first customer? Did you sort of like within your existing network where you were working? Is that where you went to first?
Yeah,
or-
I think, once you're sort of in this entrepreneurial space and this kind of problem, I don't even say entrepreneur, it's a problem-solving space. When you stop becoming when you stop just being a part of the institute and you start looking at the institute and want to solve some problems for it, that's this mindset. And that's the mindset of when or you're coming into the entrepreneurial territory,
Yeah.
and it's hard yakka. Like I said, I've never worked this hard before, and it is a little bit like cancer. It infiltrates every aspect of your life. So it infiltrates everywhere, and I never stop. Like last night, I had to wake up at 3:00 in the morning just to write a few things down on my bedside table so that I could get it out of my head so I could go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be realistic about this. If you want to stay in the institute, working for somebody else, it's fine. But and that's also good, and that's also credible and admirable. But the minute you jump out, there is a layer of complexity that it entails.
Yeah. Is it harder than you thought it would be?
Much harder. And that's why I feel like actually, even though I was a little like resentful for mum and dad never letting me just go straight into business, because I'm older now, I think I'm much more resilient. I think I've got a better handle on the problems that I'm trying to solve, because I've got all these sort of little pieces of the puzzle that I've been collecting along the way. I'm probably better positioned now to do what I'm doing than I would have been when I was sort of 25. So it's not a bad thing to gain and gather all your life experiences before you want to make a bold move to sort of step out and try something on your own.
Yeah, that's cool. And also, when did you decide to go through an accelerator program? What was kind of like the timeline? With
Yeah, so that was kind of that in between that year between product and concept and development. So and that was the most wonderful program was the Lumina X Health Tech Accelerator run by Cohort Innovation Space, because we're here today. So love the team here. It was a really great initiative to actually start innovating. So some really fantastic innovations coming out of Queensland. And it was just to guide us and give us those sort of mentors and that roadmap to help us really establish the taking it from concept and into a proper product, clinical problem to clinical solution, technical solution.
Yeah, that's cool. And then, so is it like a 1-year program or like?
It was it was a couple of years ago now, but it was about a 6 to 9 month program.
Yeah.
So it was a very intensive program, like most accelerators are, and they're designed to push you from point A to point B in your journey. So it certainly did that. And then sort of at the end of it, you pitch to sort of like hospital groups and investors. And I was quite nervous that night.
I watched your pitch.
Did you?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Someone was like, "Oh, you've improved so much," and I was like, "Wow."
Okay, good. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and so we're nearly at the end of the podcast. So just a few more quick questions.
Sure.
So the deep one you've been dreading. What do you think the meaning of life is, Ali?
Oh, the meaning of life. So I think life is short. It's very short and sweet. So don't die wondering. If you want to do something, then chase it down like a cheetah.
Yeah.
So I think the meaning of life is to try and fulfill the goals that you want to have. If you've got some goals, then chase them down. All you can do is someone can say no, or it doesn't work out, and you've not lost anything, but gained a whole lot. So I would say, that would be my meaning of life. Is it's short and it's sweet. So these are things that you think you might want to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you could go back in time, would you change anything? Would you have, started the entrepreneurial journey earlier? Or?
I think I would have started it. I would have liked to have started it in my late 20s, early 30s. I think, coming in my late 30s, I think it's just, it's fun. This is a fun space. It's hard, but it's just like anything. I'm sure you master some skills and then you apply it to another space, and so I don't think I'd change anything, but I would have liked to have got going a little bit earlier, only because I enjoy the space so much. I feel like I found my people for the first time.
Beautiful.
Also a little bit crazy. Entrepreneurs are always a little bit crazy.
Would you say that you felt that entrepreneurial calling a bit earlier, but you just kept on pushing it down
Yeah,
at that
I mean,
stage?
look, you don't have the opportunity, right? So many things have to line up for you to be able to have this opportunity.
That South Africa move.
South Africa.
Should have met your husband
kids,
earlier.
Like, kids in the middle of it, you've still got to raise a family. Financially, you know, you still actually have to be in a sound position to be able to, like, let go of that one branch. And I acknowledge that's hard, right? This is not easy. And, you know, so that's why I say I acknowledge my network around me. I have this unbelievable team of my husband, my children and my family who support me. So, and not everyone has that privilege. So I think does have to be a lot of things that line up and in life for you to just execute all your goals. And but I would never stop trying. You know, that would be my, you know, maybe it comes a bit later. For me, it came a bit later because I travelled a bit and, you know, had a few kids. And so I think it comes eventually. So, yeah.
Yeah. And when you're thinking about your entrepreneurial journey so far, was there like a point where you found that like this was like the hardest decision or hardest point? Was it selling that house? Was it going full time? Or was there like a point that you found that was hard?
I feel like that most weeks. This must be the hardest point now. This must be the hardest point now. So I don't know, maybe ask me that one in 10 years' time. I think I'll only understand this retrospectively.
You're in the thick of it.
I think I'm still in it. I don't know if I can answer that one yet.
Yeah, okay, cool. So if you won the lottery tomorrow and finances were not a concern, what would you do differently about your life?
What would I do differently about
Book yourself a holiday, Ali.
Oh, I definitely want a holiday. No, look, okay. Well, first of all, what I'd like to do with the money is I would like to back a whole lot of other female founders.
Yeah.
And enable some females in business because nothing bad happens when women make more money. And so I feel really passionate about that. I think the other thing that I feel really passionate about is having equal opportunity for healthcare. So it would probably be something around the lines of establishing some kind of healthcare model of care in developing nations that can give more people access to healthcare.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the final question is, what is an ideal, perfect day in the life for you? It can be work-related, it can be non-work related.
Oh, it'd have to be early morning training, either a surf or a run. Then it's breakfast on my deck, bacon and eggs with my husband and my kids. And then maybe like a little, I'm a mad kite surfer, so I like kite surfing. So we live at Currumbin and I'd probably like to have a kite surf and then a cold beer on the beach. Like, that would be my ideal day.
Oh, sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Hope you can do it on the weekend.
Yeah, well, it was pretty close this weekend. So, I was very fortunate. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Well, it was like a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you
you
so much for sharing your insights.
It's a pleasure, Karen. Thank you. And all the best. I'm super excited to see where the podcast goes. And thanks very much for taking the time out to listen to me.
Likewise.
All right.
Say
bye.
Bye.